Hi, this is Alice. As a speaker, have you ever experienced something like this? When you're standing on the stage, all the audience just seem to bury their heads on their cell phones, putting on a poker face and not listening to you at all. Though you have to keep talking, you go crazy in your mind and start to blame your audience. Why not listen to me? In one of Shakespeare's most famous lines, Mark Antony calls on his fellow Romans to lend me your ears. If you want to win your audience's hearts, first you have to win their ears. However, you definitely cannot just shout to your audience that, come on, lend me your ears. Well, lending ears is not so easy because listening is very hard. Listening is very hard? Yes, listening is very hard. Think about your listening test. You may still remember the fear of listening comprehension. Part 1, Section A. Scientific research shows that listening involves several different stages, and it is a very complicated process. In our daily life, we always say, I'm hearing you, but hearing and listening are quite different. Have you ever done something like this? When your parents keep on talking and talking to you, when teacher is standing on the stage, you just automatically shut your ears. It seems that you are hearing, but you are not listening. Do you think you are listening to me now, or are you just hearing me? So what is hearing? What is listening? Hearing is only an automatic reaction of the sense and the nervous system. It is a biological reaction. Listening is the receiving part of the communication process. When we translate them into Chinese, hearing may be 听见,听到, while listening can be 倾听,聆听. As a speaker, you need to realize that the audience can automatically hear you, but they won't automatically listen to you. This means that you need to make your speech easy and clear enough for your audience to receive your message and listen to you as soon as they hear your speech. Now, listen to the following clip.
Have you ever called a friend only to find that when he answered the phone, he sounded like he was standing under a metal awning during a hailstorm, speaking a foreign language twice the speed of sound, and he is yelling at you? And you're like, dude, are you in a tunnel in a foreign country during a rainstorm? Well, that is what your audience may experience if you do not practice your delivery. Get this, a speaker must consider more than just content when preparing for a speech. Vocal qualities are just as important. These are certain qualities our voice takes on when speaking, like volume, rate, pitch, fluency, articulation, and tone. And this is for good reason. Each quality acts in harmony with the others, so your audience enjoys, is attentive to, and understands your speech.
What did you hear? How much can you understand? Well, let's listen to it again.
Have you ever called a friend only to find that when he answered the phone, he sounded like he was standing under a metal awning during a hailstorm, speaking a foreign language twice the speed of sound, and he is yelling at you? And you're like, dude, are you in a tunnel in a foreign country during a rainstorm? Well, that is what your audience may experience if you do not practice your delivery. Get this, a speaker must consider more than just content when preparing for a speech. Vocal qualities are just as important. These are certain qualities our voice takes on when speaking, like volume, rate, pitch, fluency, articulation, and tone. And this is for good reason. Each quality acts in harmony with the others, so your audience enjoys, is attentive to, and understands your speech.
This time, it is much easier, right? Actually, listening is more complicated than hearing. It's not just a one way in, one way out. It involves 6 stages. Receive, comprehend, interpret, evaluate, respond, and remember. While you are speaking, the audience are doing a lot of work to listen to you and to digest your speech. Now you may start to understand why sometimes your audience are not listening to you, because listening is very hard. Scientific research shows that our listeners would only remember 10% to 25% after speech. 10 to 25%. No matter how hard they try, they cannot remember the whole speech. Therefore, don't blame your audience for not listening to you. Don't blame your boyfriends for not listening to you. Don't blame yourself for not listening to your parents. As a speaker, your goal is to help your listeners decide what information is important and to help them remember it as long as possible. So don't make your speech too difficult. Public speaking is not about showing that I'm an expert, I'm wonderful, but to help your audience remember your speech and what you say. After speech, ask your audience, what do you remember from my speech? How much can you remember? If they can still remember something after 1 month, congratulations, you have made a successful speech. Since listening is a very complicated process, it takes much longer time for us to process information than just speaking it out. This causes the rate gap between listening and speaking. Let's imagine that you are speaking with a teacher and the teacher mentions your best friend. For just a moment, you start thinking about what you and your best friend are planning to do this weekend. You follow that thought longer than you intended and then suddenly remember the teacher. Oops, what did he just say? This is because our minds and mouths work at different rates. We speak much faster than we process the information. It takes time for us to understand, digest, and memorize the information. This is a gap. The rate gap helps explain why our minds sometimes start to wander while we listen. What's more, time of our mind's focus is just like a curve. It is hard for us to keep on focusing on one thing for over 10 minutes. We start to get absent-minded, doze, think about lunch, and think about traveling on weekends. Experienced speakers know how to adjust their speech for their audience. They may start to tell some jokes, slow down, or have a rest. This allows the audience to digest the speech and refocus. Therefore, listening is really hard. As speakers, we should ease the burden on our audience. Never speak fast. Speak steadily and clearly, and leave time for our audience to think and catch up. I hope that after this class, you will always remember listening is very, very, very hard. Only when you realize this and adjust your speech accordingly, your audience will start to automatically lend their ears to you and keep on listening to you. That's all today. Thank you.
In this class, you should remember these important points.